The president just unveiled the new sanctions being imposed on Russia in connection with our G7 partners after the invasion of Ukraine. The president also said he will be sending an additional 7,000 U.S. troops to Germany to support our NATO allies in Eastern Europe. Now, the goal of these sanctions, according to President Biden, is to do several things, including cut off Russia from the global financial market, cut them off from access to imported technology, and hit more of the so-called Russian elite who share in the Kremlin's ambitions. The G7 includes the UK, United States, Canada, Japan, Germany, France, and Italy, plus the EU. These sanctions are more severe than the ones imposed earlier this week, but no one, including the president, believes that these will immediately stop Putin from further invasion of Ukraine. These sanctions are meant to hurt Putin and the Russian economy over the long term if the G7 and the U.S. can stomach the possible kickback that may come to all of our countries as a result. I'll talk more about how that works in a second. But first, today's sanctions. Cutting off Russia from trade in dollars, euros, yen, and all currencies of the G7. That, according to Biden, will further weaken the ruble, which the White House says has already hit its weakest daily settlement price on record, even before today's announcement. The sanctions also cut off several additional Russian banks from more than $1 trillion in assets that are right here in the United States. The president said this is more substantial than kicking Russia out of the SWIFT banking system. They will choke off Russia's import of technological goods that they need to evolve their military and telecommunications, seizing assets and sanctioning additional Russian elites who have their money here in the United States, which is substantial. Finally, the U.S. has also sanctioned Belarus for supporting Russia's invasion of Ukraine by sanctioning 24 individuals and entities associated with their military and financial system. President Biden again reiterated he has no plans to send U.S. troops into Ukraine to fight against Russia, but says the United States will still support the Ukrainian people with humanitarian relief. The president was frank when he said he is going to do what he can to insulate the American consumer from the kickback of all of this. But the fact is, we are part of a global economy, and it is all interconnected. In this video last week, I outlined how all of this will impact us, and sadly, some of these things have already started to happen. Why is Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine? What does he really want? You need to understand, for more than a decade, Vladimir Putin has made his ambitions known. He ultimately wants to expand Russia's footprint in Europe, and I've said it before, but you need to get this. What is concerning is it is possible Putin's ambitions stretch beyond Ukraine into bordering NATO countries. In a rambling speech just this week, Putin offered his version of history and telegraphed that what he really wants is to reestablish the USSR, and went so far as to say that Ukraine has no business being an independent country, has no sovereignty, and belongs to Russia, period. And that's what we're watching. But this isn't new. Way back in 2005, Putin said the collapse of the Soviet Union was a major geopolitical disaster. He reiterated those thoughts out loud during a speech in Munich in 2007, and it has been no secret since then. For those of you who weren't alive when the Soviet Union collapsed, this is what the map looked like around 1990. But after an independent democratic momentum led to the collapse of the Berlin Wall, seen here in November of 1989, the map over the next 2 years transformed into this. You could see Ukraine became independent in 1991, and NATO allies Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, marked by 1, 2, and 3, became independent in 1990. Putin sees all of these countries siding with the West and democracy, and he doesn't like it, and he wants them all back to have this, the USSR, even though all these places have their own identities, some cases their own languages, and want nothing to do with Russia anymore. Putin has been saying for weeks he would not invade Ukraine. In fact, he laughed off reports from the United States that those were his plans, and yet here we are. So what does the United States do? It's a fact that Ukraine is not a NATO ally, and that's why the president has said repeatedly that he is not sending U.S. troops into that country to fight Russia. However, if Putin decides to push forward into Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and other bordering NATO countries like Poland or Romania, that could be a completely different story, as the United States is bound by Article 5 of the NATO Treaty. An attack on one is an attack on all, which is the same posture the NATO allies took when the United States was attacked back on September 11th.